I gave them my basement apartment rent-free so they could save for a house. Instead, I heard her screaming one night, "She's always there." It's creepy. The next morning, my son slipped a notice under my door, "We need you to move out by next month." I didn't argue. But the day they got their mortgage rejected, they found out why when I'm a 64-year-old woman living in Missoula, Montana. I've lived in the same house for over 30 years. It's not fancy, but it's mine. My husband and I bought it together before he died in a work accident. He was a logger. One morning he left for work and never came back. Tree came down too fast. Just like that, I was a widow with a 5-year-old boy to raise alone. That boy is Nate. My only child. My whole world for a long time. I worked nights cleaning offices and did hospital laundry during the day. I barely slept, but we kept our heads above water. I paid off the mortgage over time, fixed up the place little by little, and eventually turned the basement into a rental. It had its own little kitchen, bathroom, and entrance. I rented it to college kids at first. They were messy, but they paid. Then, 2 years ago, Nate called. He and his girlfriend Marla were living in a small apartment. Rent was going up. They wanted to save for a house. I offered them the basement, rent-free. No strings. No lease. Just family helping family. "It's just for 6 months, Mom," he told me. "We'll be out of your hair before the end of the year." I told them they could take their time. I meant it. I loved having my son close. I thought Marla was sweet, kind of quiet, but respectful. I was wrong about that. At first, things were fine. I brought down food sometimes. Helped them move furniture in. Marla was polite, but kept her distance. Nate would still come upstairs now and then to watch the game or help me with the garbage bins. But that started to fade pretty quickly. By month 4, I barely saw them. By month 7, Nate stopped coming up entirely. I'd hear footsteps, sometimes the dog barking, but no knock at my door. I tried inviting them for dinner a few times, no reply. Once, I texted to ask if everything was okay. Nate just said they were settling into their routine. Whatever that meant. Then it started getting weird. One night, I brought them a casserole, chicken and mushroom, nothing fancy. I knocked and waited. I heard whispering behind the door. Then silence. I knocked again. Marla finally opened it just a crack and said, "We're busy right now." No thanks. No smile. Just that flat look on her face like I was a problem. I started noticing how they'd avoid me. If I was in the front yard watering plants, they'd wait until I went back inside before coming or going. One morning I said hi to Marla as she was taking the dog out. She acted startled, didn't say a word, just rushed back in. It stung. I didn't say anything, but I felt it. Like I'd become some weird ghost they had to tiptoe around. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Wednesday, about 11:30 p.m. I was folding laundry in the living room. Their window was cracked open, I guess they forgot. I heard Marla yelling. Not just talking. Full-blown shouting. "She's always there. It's creepy. She watches us like we're zoo animals." Then Nate said something I couldn't make out. She shouted again. "This is supposed to be our space. She just hangs around like a shadow. She doesn't even knock. She acts like she still owns the place." Nate mumbled something, probably defending me, but she cut him off. "Maybe she shouldn't live here at all." I froze. I stood there holding a towel in my hands for I don't know how long. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. It was typed. Like a formal letter. It said, "Hey Mom, we've decided we need more independence. This living arrangement isn't working anymore. We'd like you to move out by next month so we can take over the full property. We're happy to help you look for a new place. Let us know how we can support your transition. Love, Nate. I read it twice. My hands were shaking. My stomach hurt. It felt like someone had hit me with a shovel. They wanted me to move out of my own house. The house I built. The house I paid for. The house I raised Nate in. The house where his father's ashes are buried beneath the lilac bush in the backyard. They wanted me out so they could play house. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even answer. Instead, I pulled out the file folder from the kitchen cabinet. The one with the deed. The one with the will I wrote up years ago but never updated. Then I called Connie Burke. She's a real estate lawyer. My sister-in-law's childhood friend. I helped her mom once when she got sick. Connie never forgot that. I asked her one question: is my name the only one on the deed? She looked it up. Yep. Sole owner. Why? I want to make sure it stays that way. Can you help me move it into a living trust? She paused. You thinking of protecting it from somebody? I'm thinking of protecting it from my own son. That week, we filed the paperwork. I moved the house into an irrevocable trust. I made my niece Amanda the trustee. She's a sweet girl, and she's never asked me for a thing. Then I quietly packed a few bags and left. I told them I was staying with Amanda for medical reasons. Let them think I was old and fading. Let them taste what it felt like to have the whole house. For the next few weeks, I didn't contact them. I waited. That's when they applied for their mortgage. Amanda found out through a friend at the bank. They got denied. Twice. They couldn't figure out why. They reached out to me again. Nate called and left a voicemail. Said the bank had flagged something about the house title not being clean. Something about trust ownership and unapproved occupancy. I called him back. Nate, I said. Did you tell them you own the house? We live here. We've been managing it. They said something's off with the deed. There's nothing off. The house belongs to the trust. You don't own anything. And you never will. There was a long silence. You put it in a trust? He asked. Yes. Why would you do that without telling me? I laughed. You told me to move out of my own house. I decided to make sure that never happens again. He hung up. Later, I filed a quiet zoning complaint with the city. Since I wasn't living there anymore, and there was no legal tenant agreement in place, the setup violated single-family zoning regulations. The city sent them a warning. They'd be fined if they didn't correct it. Next thing I know, Marla is knocking on Amanda's door. I need to speak to Nancy. I came to the door. We're trying to buy a home, she said. You're making that impossible. I stared at her. You said I was creepy. That I shouldn't be here. That was taken out of context. No, Marla. I heard every word. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I shut the door. A week after I shut the door on Marla, I got a letter in the mail from a law firm in Bozeman. Some fancy name I'd never heard before. The letter said Nate and Marla were exploring legal options regarding equitable interest in the property. That they had contributed financially to the maintenance of the home and believed they had a right to a portion of it. I nearly dropped the paper from laughing. Contributed? They hadn't even bought toilet paper. I called Connie right away. I sent her a picture of the letter. They're trying to file a claim of interest, she said. But they've got no ground to stand on. They paid no rent. They have no contract. And the house is owned by a trust now. They're bluffing. Good, I said. Let them. But inside, it burned. Not because I was scared. I wasn't. It was the gall of it. After everything I gave them, the space, the freedom, the generosity, they tried to take it all. And now they were going to sue me? I didn't sit quietly this time. I pulled out every receipt, every bank statement. I had all the utilities in my name. I had photos from 2 winters ago of me shoveling the driveway while they were away in Seattle. I had a dated text from Marla thanking me for fixing the water heater, which I paid for. I even had copies of Venmo requests they sent to Amanda for dog food money while they were on vacation. They weren't partners. They were freeloaders. Connie drafted a reply letter. Short and sharp. Told them their claim had no legal standing. Warned them that if they pursued it, we'd counter with a formal claim for damages, misuse of property, violation of informal tenancy, and attempted elder financial abuse. That shut them up for a bit. But they didn't leave. That's what surprised me. Even after getting slapped down, Nate and Marla stayed in the basement for 3 more weeks. I found out they were hoping I'd cool off. That maybe I'd feel guilty and reverse the trust. They underestimated me. Then things got petty. One day I came by to water the plants and found the back porch light broken. The next week, the trash cans were full of fast food and beer bottles, not bagged, just dumped loose. My favorite garden gnome was smashed behind the rose bush. The kitchen window had a crack across it. When I checked my old bedroom upstairs, there were scratch marks on the wood floors from their dog, the one they swore never came up. It was like they were punishing the house. That's when I changed the locks. The outside ones and the interior door that led to the basement stairwell. I gave a copy to Amanda and kept one myself. Nate showed up at Amanda's door the next morning. "You locked us out," he said. "You still have the basement," I said. "The rest of the house is off limits." "It's my house too." "No. It's really not." He was shaking. Not from anger, from disbelief. I don't think he ever saw me as anything but soft. His backup plan. His doormat. But I'd spent enough years being quiet. "You gave me a deadline," I said. "You asked me to move out. You tried to take the one thing your father and I built. You wanted it all. Now you get none of it." He walked away without saying another word. A few days later, Amanda's boyfriend spotted Marla moving boxes out the side door. No goodbye. No apology. Just slipping out like nothing happened. Then I got a call from Connie. "You should sit down," she said. "Why?" "They just filed another complaint." I felt my chest tighten. "On what grounds?" "They're saying you're mentally unfit. That you're being manipulated by Amanda and can't make financial decisions on your own." I couldn't believe it. My own son was trying to paint me as unstable. So he could get a house he didn't earn. Connie was calm. "It's weak. But we have to take it seriously. If they push, we'll have to get documentation, doctor's notes, statements from neighbors, anything to prove you're of sound mind." I hung up. And then I cried for the first time. Not for the house. Not for the fight. For my son. For the boy I held through fevers, school bullies, breakups. For the boy I worked graveyard shifts to support. For the man he became, who was now trying to tear me down for property. But once the tears dried, I made a decision. This wasn't just about protecting my home anymore. It was about holding him accountable. After the mental incompetency stunt, things got quiet again. Too quiet. I was half expecting a process server to knock on Amanda's door with more legal papers, but it didn't happen. A month went by. Then 2. I stopped hearing from Nate completely. Amanda said she saw Marla once at the Safeway, but Marla turned and walked out before even getting to the checkout. I started sleeping again. I tended my garden. I let myself feel proud, not just for winning, but for finally standing up for myself. For drawing a line. Then in late March, I got a call from a woman named Shannon. She said she was from Child Protective Services. "Ma'am, I'm calling because we received a tip regarding unsafe living conditions involving a child at this address." I was stunned. There's no child living here, I told her. There never has been. She paused. Are you sure? The complaint listed your name and mentioned a child under the age of 5 living in an illegal basement unit. I felt cold all over. No child lives here, I said again, sharper now. The only people who were living in that unit were my adult son and his girlfriend. And they'd both moved out. She was professional, but firm. I'm going to need to come by to verify. I agreed. I had nothing to hide. When she showed up the next day, I gave her a full tour. Clean home. No signs of any child. No crib, no toys, no clothes. She seemed confused, even embarrassed. After checking the space, she looked at me and said, "This happens sometimes. We get false reports during family disputes." I nodded. You don't have to say it. I already know who sent you. As she was leaving, she added, "Just so you're aware, we're legally required to file a report stating the claim was unfounded. If there are more calls from the same source without cause, it could be considered harassment." That wasn't a twist I saw coming. False CPS claims? My son was now trying to weaponize the system against me. But what he didn't know was that I'd already taken precautions. After the mentally unfit accusation, Amanda had convinced me to start keeping a journal. Every call. Every message. Every knock on the door. I'd even installed a motion sensor camera by the garage, the one spot not covered by the city street cams. So when Nate showed up 2 nights later and stood in my driveway for almost an hour, pacing, looking at his phone, whispering to someone on a Bluetooth, I got the whole thing on video. He didn't knock. He didn't try to come in. He just stood there, like he was waiting for something. The next morning, I got an email. It was from an address I didn't recognize. You did this. You let her poison you against your own son. You chose Amanda over your family. Don't act surprised when everything falls apart. There was no name, but I didn't need one. It reeked of Marla. That bitter, smug tone I'd heard behind closed doors too many times. I took the video and the email and forwarded both to Connie. Enough is enough, I wrote. Later that day, she called me. You've done everything right, Nancy. But they're not going to stop until they hit a wall they can't climb over. I thought we already gave them that wall, I said. We did. But they think you'll cave. Or die. Or change your mind. I was silent. Then I said, then maybe it's time to take something back from them. She paused. What are you thinking? Do you remember how I've been paying for that car Nate drives? You never told me that. I've been covering the insurance. Title's still in my name. There was a long pause. Then, softly, she said, You want to repossess it? No. I want to gift it. To who? To the domestic violence shelter downtown. Let them sell it. I'm sure they need the money more than Nate does. I could practically hear Connie grinning. I'll draw up the paperwork. And that was just the beginning. I started digging through everything. I remembered Nate's credit card from when he was 20, I'd co-signed it. He never removed my name. I'd kept paying the annual fee just to protect his credit. Not anymore. I called the company and asked to be removed as a co-signer. They said he'd have 30 days to qualify on his own. If not, the account would close. I made a list of every little lifeline I had ever given him. Health insurance? I'd been helping with premiums while he freelanced. I stopped. Phone line? Still on my family plan. Not anymore. Emergency savings account I'd set up in his name but kept funded on my end. I transferred the money out. Amanda helped me move it into a fund for at-risk women aging out of the foster system. Every rope I had ever tied to keep him safe, I untied. Not to punish. To sever. To say, you made your choices. Now live in them. It all came to a head 2 months later. I was trimming the rose bushes when a certified letter arrived from the courthouse downtown. It was official. Nate had filed for partition of property. Basically, a legal way to try to force the sale of a shared home. The letter listed him as a financially interested party in residence. I stared at it for a long time. This wasn't just another bluff. He was trying to take me to court. I called Connie, told her what came, and asked only one question. Can we hit back now? Oh, we're past can, she said. We will. The hearing was set for mid-June. I showed up in a navy dress, gray hair pinned back, no makeup, no fuss. Just me and a stack of receipts in a worn leather folder. Nate sat on the other side with some overpaid lawyer. Marla wasn't there. Connie had told me Marla left him 3 weeks earlier. Something about toxicity and poor financial habits. Apparently, she'd been blindsided when Nate confessed he had 0 assets, no legal stake in the house, and tens of thousands in debt. They had maxed out their credit cards trying to appear stable enough for a mortgage, new clothes, furniture, fake savings, all of it, and it caught up to them. The judge listened. Looked through the paperwork. Asked questions. Then Connie laid it all out. House was solely owned by a trust. Nate was never on the deed. He lived rent-free for 2 years. He made 0 improvements or contributions. He tried to remove the rightful owner under false pretenses. Filed baseless claims with CPS and attempted to defame her mental health. Sent a false legal complaint with no merit and harassed the trustee. Then Connie handed the judge a folder with the CPS dismissal, the email from Marla, and the video footage of Nate pacing in the driveway the night the call was made. The judge's face changed. He asked Nate's lawyer, "Do you have a rebuttal?" The man shifted in his seat and said, "My client may have acted emotionally, but he believed in good faith that he had rights." The judge shook his head slowly. "This is not good faith. This is a pattern. A disturbing one." And then he did what I never thought possible. He sanctioned Nate. Personally. Ordered him to pay my legal fees. Filed a report on potential abuse of legal process. And issued a restraining order for 12 months. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. But inside, something let go. Like air escaping a balloon I'd been holding for too long. A few weeks later, Amanda and I were having lunch at the Catalyst Cafe downtown when she showed me something on her phone. Nate had started a GoFundMe. The title? Evicted by my own mother, help me rebuild. He painted himself as a victim. Said I was manipulated by greedy relatives and ripped away from family roots. Claimed I sold the house out from under him and was mentally confused. The comments were brutal. People tore into him. Someone even posted a link to the court documents. The fundraiser barely hit $140. I didn't say anything. Just passed Amanda my fork and told her to try the quiche. But the final piece of justice came later that summer. The dog, Oliver, had been taken by Marla when she left. But Nate had filed for custody of him, too. He lost. The judge awarded Oliver to Marla because she had records of all the vet visits, food purchases, and licensing. Nate had none. Apparently, he thought posting cute photos on Instagram counted. But Oliver ran away. And guess where animal control brought him? To my house. Because the microchip had been registered in my name when they first got him, and they'd never updated it. I opened the front door that morning and there he was. Dirty, thin, tail wagging like crazy. He whined and threw himself into my arms like I was the only person he'd ever loved. Maybe I was. I took him inside, gave him a bath, fed him, and sat with him on the porch while the sun came up. Later that day, Nate texted me, "I heard you have Oliver. I want him back." I texted back one word, no. He didn't respond. It's been almost a year now. Nate moved to a 1-bedroom rental in Great Falls. Works at a car lot. I don't hear from him, and I don't expect to. Amanda and I still have dinner every Sunday. She recently got engaged. The house is quiet, but not lonely. Oliver keeps me company. So does Peace. Sometimes I wonder how it got this bad. How the boy I loved became a man who tried to evict his own mother. Maybe I gave too much. Maybe I raised him without enough struggle. But maybe, sometimes people just choose who they are. And if that's true, then I choose me. I choose to be the woman who didn't cave. Who didn't run. Who gave her son everything, until he tried to take it all. And when he did, I took it back. Every inch. Every memory. Every right. Because I wasn't just always there. I was home. And I still am.